And I would like to introduce Felipe Barbosa from InternetNZ. I'm going to say Z because I'm English. And he's going to show us some neat tooling for in-house monitoring of DNSSEC's state of their services in a multi-signer setup. So welcome to Felipe.
Hi all, thank you, Kat. Right, the presentation today, it's one of our outcome about our last DNSSEC incident in 2023. And this is one of our outcome, and also this solution was also inspired by some talks with some SIDN guys, especially Stefan. So the purpose of this solution that we are trying to use in our multi-sign environment, three pillars that we're trying to reach. It's anticipate issues in prod before going public. We also would like to simulate some testing in our production environment, because even that we are using stage environment or acceptance environment, some kind of problem only happen in prod. So yes, we would like to testing something before going public, even in a case that you don't want to deploy in that exactly moment. And also visibility. Visibility is more thinking about, we would like to have different pictures of the same place, because black and white color, it's different of a colored one. You can see different details of the same place. So the requirements to do that, basically, it's the main thing, it's recursive perspective. In our last case, we can only see the problem on the recursive side. So on the rotative side and all other tools that we're using as authoritative, we cannot see nothing. So this is the basically point. Another point is using our data, so it means using our own zone, not artificial. ADB, because on the recursive perspective, we would like to reproduce what you have on the real world. And some history for comparisons. Needs to be some kind of automation, and because of our style to use, we need to have this stack deployed in every environment and each site. So the planning to doing that, it's basically build a one-box solution. So we are talking about using containers. So basically using containers for each component, one to simulate the root server, one to simulate our authoritative servers, recursive, and we are using DNSSEC to have our DNSSEC perspective. We are just exposing this via Nginx as a web server. And also, more important, we need to have monitoring of this monitor system, because before, when I need to do any change in the environment, we need to check the health of this stack. Yeah, so we are just using bind for all the authoritatives. We need to have some kind of communication with our infrastructure to collect some data as DS and things like that, to renew the zones with new resource records in case of a rollover, for example. Another custom thing, we are reproduce our public network and our name server. So we are share the same network range between the NZ authoritative server and the recursive server, because we can have some direct connection because of that. As I mentioned before, we are using DNSSEC. So DNSSEC basically it's a cron job that we are collecting all the information about the query for all our zones and the Nginx that you are exposing. This is kind of diagram that I try to represent what I explained so far. So we have this kind of communication with our real signers to receive new DSs to be more automatically, so we don't need to resign manually root sign zones. And this is the thing that we are sharing the same network address range between the .NZ authoritative and the recursive. So the implementation on the current setup, we are using a Ubuntu VM, and we are deploying this via Ansible playbooks and Git. And basically, the results of this, it's container, a compose file that it's managed by systemd. And we have this deployed on, in our 2 environments, in prod and stage, that today we have in 2 locations. So we have 4 stacks deployed. So our usage, it's basically when we need to introduce some change in our environment today, basically we need to check the health of our fake roots stacks. And with that, we can pause the communications between signing primaries to not updating our secondaries, and we can do our checks, our testing, most likely using a guardrail. And when we are comfortable to go ahead, to go forward, we then can just restore this communication. And also, because our environment, it's a multi-signer, we have 2 chains that can be in the time that we decide to be active. You need to have this kind of information easily to be observed in all our chains. And this chain is in another side, so we can have the same stack to be observed all this kind of data. So this is some kind of example. Sorry, this is some kind of example that I try to illustrate. I just do the same query for some random zone, NetNZ zone, and just to check that we have the same serial internally and externally, just to make sure that we're talking about the same zone. And also the ADB to have in all the strict queries. We have just using Cloudflare, Cloud9, and our internal recursive on this stack, and we can reach to the same content of the zone. And this is some kind of tracing validation, like in the first window you can see the ID of the KSK and the ZSK of our internal fake root. And when we are doing a drill, just to do the tracing from the top, we can see the same IDs there, just to make sure that we're not using the real root servers. And it's all trusted. Here is some print screens. Maybe here, maybe not so easy to see, but this is some of our front end. We have all the history there of every 15 minutes we are running this kind of solution, and we have the whole zone produced DNS style. Future work, we are thinking about increase more perspective on the DNSSEC chain. So zone master we can introduce as a container to compare with DNSVs. Of course, using more DNS flavors on the recursive side and the alternatives too, just to compare the behaviors. We can also use in real root servers. And the idea is don't matter how complex it's the solution, we would like to be automated at this. So doesn't matter how complex it's the solution. If the solution can produce an answer like okay or not okay, we can use this as a post-sign hook in our open DNSSEC signer to decide if you can continue signing the zones or just stop. And if stop, you can troubleshooting without any issues. More visualization of the query for comparison reasons with the prod using DSC, DSP, and the idea of these solutions to have more proactive work and less reactive. I believe that's me.
So thank you very much to Felipe. And do we have any questions for him?
So you showed the examples that were pretty much where the fake and the real one was the same kind of zone serial, but you really need that before you add stuff. So is there a delay in the process, or how do you kind of make sure that the changes you are doing to the live root zone, to the live NZ zone, are not getting published into the production?
Because when you do the change, we stop the communication between the primary and the signers. So we cannot update our secondaries. And also because the signer also sends notifies to this container that represents .NZ.
Okay, so you're pretty much shutting off your primary.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Like because of that, I mentioned in the end that the idea is to be automated and not manually today.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions or remote questions? In that case, thank you very, very much for your interesting talk.